Whoa, okay. Okay. Hey everybody. For this video, I kind of want to talk about a topic that's very interesting to me. I want to talk about creative freedom and the impact of creative freedom as an artist. Now, I think creative freedom is very important because from a young age, play, creativity is just play from how we adults tend to play. And from a young age, kids learn the world through playing. Right? You go outside with your friends and you have a good time and you learn about the world through play. Right? And play is such an important part of the creative process because without it, you can't really learn. I mean, you can't really learn anything because in order to learn, you have to fail, right? You have to fail a little bit in order to learn something new. And in order to learn, you have to be open to playing and just playing around without the fear of making a mistake or just, thinking it all has to be perfect, because if it's always perfect, you're not learning. And that defeats the whole purpose of it. And I've thought a lot about creative freedom. When I'm thinking about stuff, usually the first thing that's on my mind is, how can I be a more creative person? How can I be more open to new experiences, and how can I be ready for those experiences when they come, Excuse me. And for me, I find the key is play, because when you're playing, you don't have the expectations of the adults, that are like, oh, the adults must do this and this in order to get this result. But when you're playing, you're open to trying new things, and you grow more. You grow more as a person, and you grow more as an artist when you're open to playing. And playing is so important for the development of a human being. I mean, even from a young age, right? When we were kids, we just knew how to play and how to imagine things, right? We just we understood those things instinctually, and it's kind of a lost art. I think it's a little bit of a lost art, playing. Just being open to new things, and not to be so rigid and all that. So just, be open. And if you guys are wondering what I'm drawing an apple. I'm currently drawing an apple. So, yeah. And this is just a little, because I haven't used graphite in forever, and I'm coming back to graphite a little bit. And the thing about graphite is there's a lot of white space. There's a lot of room for white spaces if you don't hold your pencil correctly. So, or your line work is slightly off. There's a lot of room for that. But again, what I'm talking about is playing. I'm not talking about being perfect here. Playing is actually how you get the most growth as an artist. Your ability to stay open and to stay curious and to just play. Literally, there's nothing magical or mystical about it. I mean, you're just open to new experiences. You're open to failure. And you don't when you're playing, you don't really take failure personally, because you're playing, right? You're not creating something for the sake of a job or whatever. You're just playing, and that is the key to all growth in art, because you can get so hesitant and so tight that you don't grow at all. And that's why a lot of young artists, especially, that's why their growth stops. Because they stop being willing because they learn new things, and then they treat it like it's the end result. And it's not. Like, the technique is not the whole process. Like, it's, they all bleed together, and in order to unlock those things, playing is the best way to do that, because you're really free to try new things and to fail. And in order to learn and grow, you need to fail, right? And failing is the key to growth in art, especially when it comes from the mindset of playing, because then you actually learn a new technique, and you don't just, because a lot of art growth stops when you are idle. Like, you get in your comfort zone, and your growth just stops, and it's old habits are hard to break, but through play it's really it can get easier to break those habits through play, because you're actually interested in the topic. You're not just doing it for the, I mean, of course there's always that, but you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it, right? Well, sorry, you're not just doing it for the sake of the paycheck. You're doing it for the sake of doing it, right? You're doing it because you like it, right? And that's where the most growth, especially creative growth, happens. And I would say most growth requires failure, which requires you to play, requires you to be open. And playing is just being open, right? Open to new experiences and all that. And as we get older as adults, we tend to have more rigid mindsets than from when we were kids. We tend to adopt this really rigid mindset of X result equals X result, and or this input plus this input equals that output, and we get into this like rut as an adult. Whereas when we're kids, we're willing to learn, play, and all that stuff. And it's so important to be open to new experiences like that. So yeah, this is just an apple that I'm drawing. I'm literally just drawing an apple. But yeah, just when you're open to new experiences, and you're open to playing, and you're open to all that stuff, you find that growth becomes a lot easier than if you were uptight all the time. And I think that apple's done. That's a done apple. But yeah, without play, there's no learning, there's no failure, there's no, and play makes failure fun, right? And it's a really potent formula for growth whenever you combine play with your work and stuff, rather than just working for the sake of making money. But you actually get better at what you're doing, rather than just stalling, because a lot of art growth, I find, stalls when people aren't willing to try new things. They just aren't willing to try something new, and they start complaining about how I'm not growing as an artist. Well, have you tried coming out of your comfort zone a little bit? I know people find that very some people can find that very triggering, but come out of your comfort zone and treat it more like play than like a chore. Because if drawing is a chore, do you like the final result of drawing, or do you like the process of drawing? Because the process of drawing is what you're going to be living with, right? Not the final result. The final result is, something that comes as a result of the process. And when you're playing, right, the lines kind of blur there, and it's really It's just you're failing, but you're having fun while doing it. And it's important to ask yourself the question, do I like the final result, or do I like the process? Especially when your art growth stops and you just seem to not grow at all. You have to ask yourself this question. Am I falling in love with the result, or am I falling in love with the process? And the process should always come first. So yeah, that's an apple. That's an apple and graphite. Yeah, okay. Thank you.